Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life, as always. Wanted to talk to everybody today about all these bastard childs when it comes to paternity and wedlock and shit. And basically what we're talking about when we talk about a bastard child, we look at the Bible in regards to what a bastard child is, and we see that it's a child that's born out of wedlock. Out of wedlock. Okay, so let's first talk about wedlock. What is wedlock? Well, when we think about wedlock, a lot of times today we think about marriage. And in regards to marriage, we're talking about a commercial term. Wedlock is a biblical term. So we see the difference there between the two. And when we look at marriage and wedlock, we see that both of them are a pledge. Wed means pledge. Lock. You're locked in a union. You've pledged a union between the two. So when you do it under a wedlock, that's under your covenant with your Creator. And it's between the two individuals committing to a union. And that's all it takes. Whereas your commercial marriages nowadays takes the intervention of that third party as the authority being the state over the two in union. And they consider themselves, through that marriage license, the parent. And what happens is it turns everything in that union into a commercial venue, puts it in a commercial venue, under the presumption of the right of enforcement. I want everybody to realize that none of these laws has any right of enforcement. Every law ever written is written in capacity of a privilege according to the one that's writing it, even though it's purveyed as a right. Your right, your inherent rights cannot be taken away or given away. They are there no matter what. And so when it comes to this bastard child that's born out of wedlock, when we're talking about out of wedlock, it means prior to the wedlock, prior to the union. In other words, what happens is two young people get together, they find themselves attracted, they knock boots, as we call it nowadays, or whatever you want to call it, and they end up having a child out of that before they commit to a union. Okay? Now, when those two people have that child out of wedlock, but then turn around and decide that they want to pledge each other together for the rest of their lives as life companions, that child is no longer a bastard. According to the Bible, King James Version, I can't remember exactly where it's at. I'll look it up and see if I can get it posted on this video. But the union of those two people means that the child is no longer a bastard. The bastard child is only a bastard child until there comes to a union of those two people, or two of mom and dad. And the way I regard that in my own aspect is, I was born into a family. I had 4 brothers and sisters, but we were all adopted out when we were young, and so we don't remember a whole lot about our parents. I don't know if they were married or not. I do know that they made a commitment. Whether it be commercial is a different story, but I do know they made a commitment to be life partners because I had 4 brothers and sisters. So there was a union, there was a pledge to stay together. So no matter what any kind of record that man wants to portray, it's still just a presumption. Period. Plain and simple. And so when we talk about these bastard childs, I want to expand and help everybody realize in my struggle throughout my life in trying to put my family back together, I came to realize that my family's already here. My family's right there. And what I mean is, when I talk about your children, they're my children. Your son is my son. Your daughter is my daughter. Your niece is my niece. Your nephew is my nephew. Your cousins are my cousins. Your brother is my brother. Your sister is my sister. Your mom is my mom. Your dad is my dad. Your grandpa is my grandpa. Your grandma is my grandma. All through and through, we are all part of the all. And in my concept, my idea, there is and cannot be any such thing as a bastard child as long as other people have a commitment to have a union lifelong to be such brothers and sisters in life. To be stewards, not just for other life, but for our own lives. For each other, for our neighbors, for our friends. If you saw my video I posted the other day, you'll see before that video I posted a poem I wrote back in 2008 called Inverted. Please read that. And basically what it is I think people are going around with these blank facades of reality because they're so involved in all the bullshit of commercialism. And that's what's stopping them from getting down to the reality of what's really true. And this commercialism, understand it, people. The commercialism is totally a realm of doublespeak and dog Latin and legalese, and none of it is real. None of it is true. Every last precept of it, it was designed specifically to mislead. I've discussed terms like defendant and representative, and if you look at those terms and break down those words and the prefixes and suffixes that they add to them that place conditions on the root word, you'll see that it converts the word, it perverts the word, and skews every aspect of the reality. And that's why I think it's so important to get down to the root cause, the root word, and the root knowledge of what's happening, so you can properly discern the truth for yourself. Because somebody else's truth isn't your truth. It can't possibly be. Period. We all live such different lives that we could do the exact same thing at the exact same time, but we're in two different places, with two different intents, two different goals, different motivations behind doing it. And this is what makes everything so bad. We need to understand when it comes to this right of enforcement. What is your right of enforcement? What's enforcement? Well, we see the root word force. And this is the important lesson about Jesus never fighting. He didn't enforce anything. He didn't try to change the law. He didn't try to enforce the law. He just tried to prove the law. And he did so simply. If it's got Caesar's face on it, does it not belong to Caesar? If it belongs to Caesar, not myself, should I not give it back to Caesar? And this is so important in regards to the aspect of these bastard childs that everybody portrays there are. He was created in his image, just like we are. Therefore, does he not already belong to us through a pledge from our Creator to be a steward among life? Is there really any such thing as a bastard child if we ourselves look at it differently and see it for what it really is? Or are we going to continue to accept this derogatory term called bastard as if though it's a simple word like marriage or commerce? Or someone mentioned earlier, my credit sucks. Well, it's because you're giving value to the wrong system. If you want your credit to skyrocket, get it from the right authority. If you want your word to be your bond, then use his word. If you want a financial system to be a bond, then enslave yourself in the financial system and keep providing the bonds. You're the one that has to provide the bond to give the fictional system value. He provided the bond originally for yourself. And now you're passing that bond along to fiction. Quit it. Quit giving all these fictional words value. Quit giving all these fictional systems value. That's the bastard. That's the shit that's born out of wedlock. It's not born with a pledge. Did you pledge to that financial system when you were born? No. So how are you bonded to it? I really think people need to start thinking about all this stuff, and I only do this stuff to try to point out the simple logic and rationale behind all this stuff. And if you'll notice, when I do these videos, you can go back and you can look at my videos when I first started 3 years ago, and you can see how I've changed, progressed, and refined the way I speak, in the way I act, as well as the way I think and do my research. Because as time goes on, I realize how fake all of these financial bonds and everything are, because I realize more and more how strong my bond is with reality. It's inherent. It's natural. It's instinctual. I have a buddy here that I'm hoping to get on with him to do another video about the Second Amendment in our right to bear arms. We talked about that enforcement. In regards to Jesus and the way he walked in life, and he didn't present any arguments. He questioned their presumptions in a Socratic way. And so when we talk about the word enforcement and the right to bear arms in that Second Amendment, I try to impose upon I try to impress upon everybody. I don't like using the word impose, but I like to try to impress upon everybody the concept of Sun Tzu in his writings of Art of War. And we can force things if we want, but there are many ways we can force them. And one of the easiest ways to force them is by using our logic and rationale to defeat our opponents without fighting. See, there is a way to enforce the truth without enforcing a physical act of violence. And I think this is what we need to get down to, and the only way we're going to do that is a lot like Jesus did, and just questioning everything. Because, like I've said many times, if you question every word that they put on their forms, like my brother Robbie did in his thing a year and a half ago when his heiress was born. He just questioned the words, and when they redundantly said after he had already agreed that he didn't want to give a blood transfusion, they wanted him to sign another document that said that now he was willing to give a blood transfusion. Well, that's kind of oppositional and therefore doesn't make any sense. And so why would he do it? And they kind of had to agree with him, well, that doesn't make sense. So he got out of the hospital without having to sign any of their documents, let alone provide any documents of his own, or even give his baby a name in the hospital, because his baby doesn't have a name. He gives his baby a calling, and he can change that calling anytime he wants. It's like the bastard child. It's not forever. And this is our choices. These are our choices. And we see even in the Bible, many people change their names throughout life. They went from being called one thing to being called another thing. And this is reality. And today's commercial system has perverted it in every sense, starting with paternity, marriage, and bastard child. The IMF puts a number, a birth number, on a document that bastardizes the language. And that's the true bastardization. Life isn't a bastard in any sense. There's no such thing as a bastard in life. Many creatures live in different ways. Some are polygamous, some are monogamous, some are change from monogamous to polygamous, some change from polygamous to monogamous, some are totally abstinent. We have creatures that are asexual, bisexual, monosexual. The fuck is it all? And like I said, and I'll tell everybody, your truth isn't my truth and my truth isn't your truth. So and anybody that's watching this video, any of you cops, policy enforcers, lawyers, judges, magistrates, DAs, I don't give a fuck who you are. You keep bastardizing the language all you want, but when it comes to myself, like I said, your truth isn't my truth, and I'm going to point it out. I'm going to ask for clarification in every fucking word, and if it gets to needing so, I'm going to get down to the clarification of every mark you put on that piece of paper. Dots, commas, spaces, everything is going to be concise. And this is the important thing that I think everybody needs to get back to is the concise reality of yourself. Are you really married? When you filed that marriage license, are you really married? Is it valid? Nope. That marriage license has terms, conditions in there placed upon words that bastardize the intent that two people have to commit themselves, to pledge themselves to a union between themselves by using words such as marriage, paternity, bastard, parent. You're not parents. You're mom and dad. They're not your children. They're not your child. They're your heirs and heiresses. They're your heretical birthright. And that's all it is. So when these people put their terms and conditions upon words by using prefixes, suffixes, and obliterating the punctuation and the construction of the timeline of the way the words are put together themselves, we have to understand that they're doing it with the intent purpose of creating bastards, of ruining unions by making a union with them. They're breaking the union, the original union, by convincing us that we need to make a union with them. And we don't. I'm living proof. 3.5 plus 4, going on 4 years now, I've not given a signature. Except recently I did a, except for value on the court summary charges down at the local courthouse, just to see if it would have any kind of effect. And so I did put a signature on the except for value. But in regards to anything, any other kind of financial instruments, court documents, or even employment documents or applications or anything, nope, ain't going to do it. Ain't going to do it. Just did a video the other day about signature. What kind of mark are you going to leave? Is it going to be a physical mark on a piece of paper? Or are you going to leave your mark in eternal life in a way that people can remember you and what you said and the knowledge you passed along, so that they too can be keepers of knowledge and not keepers of a record? Even the family registry, you know, when it comes down to these nativity records, it's still a written word. It's still brought down and reduced. As a dad, I remember my children being born. I remember my intent. I don't need to write it down. Ever. Neither do my heirs or heiresses. They know where they came from. And I hope you people do too. None of you are bastards, and none of you are really married. None of you are parents. Those are all fraud. It's a bastardization to change your line of thinking and belief. Pink Floyd, The Wall. You see the video where all those kids are lined up and going down the assembly line and all of a sudden drop off. And that's exactly what it is. They're delineating everybody so they can control them. It's much easier to control people that are going down a conveyor line than a wide belt having to try to pick some out here and there. Well, that's the way they started it. They started with a wide belt and they started picking people out, and the more people they picked out, that line got narrow, and they got better at it, and the line got narrower and narrower, and it's still doing it. Their system works. Now we have to figure out how to make our system work, how to make reality work in a more prosperous and abundant way. So I really hope people think about this. It's one of the realities we need to come to, is understanding that the word bastard itself has helped us convince ourselves that somehow a child can be wrong just from being born because of two other people that didn't do something that somebody else expected them to do. In life, there is no such thing as a bastard. Period. We create bastardization by our own thoughts, by believing the thoughts of others. And so hopefully everything that I put out, and again, like I said, go back to my first videos and see, and you'll see I've grown tremendously, particularly my hair. But you'll see how I even speak differently. I noticed when I first started doing the videos, I was eager enough. I wanted to get the information out there, so I did all the information, or the research I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I was putting it out, and and they were short, quick little videos, and I didn't stop and pause or anything. I just kept going. And today, I have these nice little pauses. I know how to better inflect my words so that you hear them, you see them, You touch them. And I hope you guys understand that you can see things with your ears just like a blind man walking down the street with a stick. You can hear things with your eyes. You can taste things with your nose. Just discussed with somebody the other day, another brother, another thing we've been confined to is to believe that we have 5 senses: sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. There are so many more senses. So many more senses. Quit believing what they tell you and start researching. And when you get to the point where you can start researching in your own mind without any devices, that's called true communication with the all. That's called true observation. You no longer have to read it on a piece of paper. You no longer have to listen to somebody else portray it to you. You can if you want, if you need a better perception of different views. But it is always, always your responsibility to step up to your capability of your own discernment. If you are concerned, then discern it. By knowing the truth, by doing your research, by observing. Observing reality, not just reading fiction. So when it comes to you people getting involved in all this commerce and everything, understand that's the bastard. That's the bastard out of wedlock. That's the bastard without a pledge. See, when everybody goes down to the local courthouse and they just bought a new car and they're convinced that they have to go to the courthouse to register their automobile. 2 sides of the ledger, according to the treasurer, one's public, one's private. You enter it as a registration of your automobile on the private side, and they use it as an acquisition on the public side for trade or business. And by the state, the treasurer offers up the acquisition, which is the unlawful conveyance, right there. It's a registration that has turned into an acquisition without your knowledge, which is required to have a statement under penalty of perjury. Just like any other grant, just like any other deed, just like any other title that one transfers, it has to have a statement saying so. There ain't no such thing. And so it's an unlawful conveyance, an unlawful transfer. And so the state or the treasurer, by their responsibility to the state according to the written law, they're supposed to give the state the acquisition records in order to receive certification for a motor vehicle. Then that little county treasurer here gives you a certificate of title. How did my registration all of a sudden become a title? Didn't. It's a false pledge. It's a bastardization out of wedlock. Pure and simple. So think about this stuff, people, and really, really learn to discern the differences between fiction and reality. And remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. Because I already know it. I'm a keeper of knowledge. And now I'm trying to pass it on so you can keep it. Love y'all. God bless. Have a great day. Bye.